And I have one student that said to me, Dayna, the work that you're doing is important because it's showing us that it's okay to be ourselves. And it made me feel safe having you near me while I was painting. And what y'all are doing is important for humanity.
Welcome to a new episode of Most Memorable Journeys. We are now in the second half. Well, no, that's not the second half. There are more than 100 episodes. So I have this wonderful lady who has been introduced to me by Kiki. I want to mention that because I really appreciate people who introduce me to interesting people. So Kiki Palin, thank you. And today I'm talking to the amazing Dayna Reggero, who is a documentarian and an environmentalist. She travels a lot. She is very interested in climate change or trying to stop climate change. She has been interviewed by CNN, ABC, CBS, NBC, whatever, all the big channels. She was in Washington with Jane Fonda. I want to talk about that. She is originally from New York, lives in Florida now. Welcome to Most Memorable Journeys, Dayna.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy that you're taking the time to be here. And I usually start this podcast with a question. When were you on a plane the first time?
You know, I was thinking that the first time I was on a plane had to be for the Junior Olympics. And I used to travel with my father all around the country to run. And I was a really fast runner when I was really little. And so that's why I was on a plane, from the time I was 5 years old until I went to high school, traveling around for the Junior Olympics. And I was an all-American runner. And I got to go to all these really beautiful places. In every city that we would go to, we would visit a zoo. And so I think that's also how I really got the bug for traveling and environmentalism and all of it.
That's amazing. But that was within the US.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That was all in the US. And the first time I traveled outside the US was to Puerto Rico with my family. And we stayed in a family friend's house and we got to travel around the whole island. It was an amazing experience. And then I lived in Ecuador for 3 months by myself when I was 16 or 17 years old on a student exchange program.
Wow, that is an experience. So young.
Oh, so young. It really, gave me that solo travel bug, I think. And I actually just returned from a trip to Spain and Portugal where I went by myself. I still do that.
Yeah, but you see, this is the thing, here's the thing. I think when you do these things, when you travel young and then you go 3 months to Ecuador or whatever, life just never is the same again. And I think you are the travel bug is not something that can be healed. And I don't think it should be healed.
Yeah, I love it. I one time lived in the Italian Alps for 3 months on a volunteer project. And there was nobody there. We didn't have, computers. We didn't have television. We didn't, me and one other woman from Poland, Ava, and we just protected that forest. What an experience, 3 miles from the nearest little village, just amazing experiences, people that you get to meet from around the world. I met Kiki on a travel journey through Florida with National Geographic on a photo tour in Key West. And so I went down there to film sharks on a shark boat as part of another friend's film project and got to meet Kiki from Sweden. And now here I am with you. Traveling is wonderful. And when you are alone, you do, I think, open up to more people and local experiences, right? That listening really comes into play. And that's, of course, what I love to do as a documentary filmmaker and listener is just be present and listen.
Totally. You saying that you were in the Italian Alps, far away, there was no internet, I would imagine.
No.
So, because I have this experience. I was a tour guide when I was young and I worked in the Maldives. And I lived on an island where you could walk around in 10 minutes. And I was 25 and I sometimes wonder, how did I do that? How did I do that then?
It's amazing. And how we become a part of communities too, and people help us. And, you just meet these wonderful people and also learn how to do things on your own. And I think it's made me somebody who now is a filmmaker. I mean, I'm working on my new film in the Gulf Coast, which is called Gulf Coast Love Story. And I often just take off and I go over to Texas, to Louisiana, and film and meet people. And I'm not scared to do that, although it is very scary. And, we even recently, while filming, crossed over into where they're building part of the new border wall where they had started building that. And there's a tree, this beautiful tree that my friend Jackie, a dancer in Texas, she had gone to this beautiful 1,000-year-old tree for her whole life. They would gather around this tree in high school. Her and her friends would hang out around this tree. And we don't have a lot of these trees anymore because they really are so big and massive that it makes it hard to see down there, right? So it's a militarized zone. They want to be able to see. So they're cutting down the trees. They're not replanting them. And so now this wall is being built actually on this side of the tree, even though it's part of the US. And so we actually, before they had finished building, we went over and crossed this wall, through this scary wall, to go and see this tree one last time. And I don't know that I would have, the guts to do things like this
if you hadn't had your previous life.
If I wasn't walking the streets of Ecuador, of Quito, on my own at 16 years old.
Yeah, but I think I agree with you. I do agree with you because you do become pretty fearless, don't you? Because you don't really have much choice when you are in one of those places. You just go and do it.
Yeah. And when somebody tells you, if you go all the way to Texas and you get to meet this amazing person and they say, hey, Dayna, I want to introduce you to my favorite tree. And that is what people say to me after my career of 20 years, that is what people say to me is, hey, Dayna, you're coming to town. I want to introduce you to my favorite tree. You go and say yes, and you go and see the favorite tree.
Under any circumstances. That's amazing.
Saying yes to these wonderful experiences.
Yeah, but it's actually really sad about that wall, I think, if you ask me. And I was talking to somebody on another podcast interview, and we were saying that when you are sitting on a plane and you look down on planet Earth, you don't see any borders.
Oh. I made a film called The Wood Thrush Connection, where I listened to people across borders connected by a migratory bird that they love so much, this songbird. And everybody wants to protect this bird. And this is a migratory bird. This bird needs all of us along the migratory path completely to work together to make sure that it has the right habitat, along the entire migratory journey, where it hangs out in the winter, where it hangs out in the summer, and everywhere in between. And we have to work together across borders if we want to listen to these beautiful songbirds in the spring, or we want to have access to our favorite tree. And I found that so often on the journey for this new film, The Gulf Coast Love Story. There's actually several parts where we see people losing access to these places that they love. And I mean, I love the Gulf Coast. This place is, I live on an area where there's these coastal dune lakes that are rare in the world, and they're beautiful. And, we have the beaches that people love to travel here and enjoy, and then the bayous. And of course, people get crab and shrimp and there's just this culture, jazz music, blues. And yet, sometimes you're driving along the Gulf Coast and you get to Louisiana and you'll think you're coming upon like New York City, and you're like, wow, look at these lights. And instead it's actually like Cancer Alley. It's in fossil fuel infrastructure. And it's all of this sort of oil and gas, just stuff and lights. And it's just pollution. And it's absolutely devastating. And there's areas where I was filming with one man in Homa in Louisiana, Justin, who's a chef, and he's always worked, with the shrimp and the crabs, and in his traditional Homa, traditions of cooking and having access to these amazing foods there. Now, we went to go one place, he wanted to show me, and there's a fence up. We couldn't get there anymore because they're building LNG and all these big gas export facilities and more petrochemical. it's just, people sort of being deleted, stories being deleted, places being deleted. And it's just, so that's what I'm working on, is listening to artists and chefs and dancers and, these beautiful people along the Gulf Coast that are, able to share these local experiences of the shrimp and we did a, crawfish boil, and Jackie did this beautiful dance on the beach after we went to the tree, and listening to music, listening to these things and visioning a future like we want. What do we want? And it's not this, it's not where it's going along the Gulf Coast. And so the film is really a love story. And that's what I do. I listen, we do healing. We all come together and feel safer together, in this place.
Wow. But this is a very good question that you just asked. What do we want? What do we really want? And my other question, or my other thing is, we're here for such a short time. Why are we doing all these things?
I know, and I got a chance to work on a project called Gulf Coast Murals. And when you get to work with young people, it was like, we did this live mural at the University of Houston. Young people did this mural in New Orleans through this project called YAM and Youth Arts Movement. And these young people painted these murals of love for the Gulf Coast. And the visions that they have of community, of love is, it's almost, just makes you just why? Yeah, this isn't really the future that they see. And you want to do something for them. You want to say, hey, I fought, I tried. So that's what we're doing. We want them to feel safe in their home and to not feel like they have to move away from here, or that somebody's coming and, going to pollute their home or take it away. And so these murals actually have this better visions for the future, like in Corpus Christi, where they can no longer see the sunset at Sunset Park because of this infrastructure has been built out so much in the last 5 years. They did this beautiful mural. This one artist, Jose Gonzalez Support, did this beautiful mural of a sunset over a park with community gardens and people together, and in New Orleans, it's like rebuilt homes and communities, with clean energy and just beautiful. And the young people at the University of Houston, by the end of that day, when we were painting the live mural, we didn't know if anybody would come. By the end of the day, we had probably up to 50 students coming through there and just joining in and painting a part. And I have one student that said to me, Dayna, the work that you're doing is important because it's showing us that it's okay to be ourselves. And it made me feel safe having you near me while I was painting. And what y'all are doing is important for humanity. And we're just painting a mural, but coming together, saying it's okay to care for each other is even radical in this day. So we're doing some radical love stuff out here.
Do you think that most young people are aware and thinking of the planet, are more aware than okay, you and I are not the same generation, I'm older, but that people are becoming more aware? And is there hope?
I absolutely think so, because every generation we learn more. We're gaining access to information, even amongst ourselves, scientifically, of course, data, but also amongst ourselves on things like TikTok. And these young people, they are sharing information like we've never had before. It is revolutionary. And so they're sharing information about everything and how we want to be in relationship with everybody, and the realities of many things. I've learned so much. I joke around that I've gotten a TikTok doctorate in this or that, because you really do learn a lot from each other. And so we've never seen this before. This time of really sharing information beyond who we know. Like on Facebook, you're often connected with people things like that, or you have to go and search out information that you need to find, you want to learn about on Google. And depending on what news sources or whoever your influencers are, you're receiving information specifically, that you're looking for, that you already know and is in your bubble and in your circle. This really has, I think, brought us to connecting with people all around the world in a new way, to receiving things that we didn't even know that we needed to ask the question for. And so I think that that's kind of a fascinating new way of doing. And as an artist, that's what I try to always be doing, is trying to think of things that, it's not on trend. It's not like whatever, whatever is what everybody wants me to do. And I think young people have that ability to think in new ways, to be curious, to have wonder, to say, hey, does it have to keep being this way? Even though, okay, you did it and they did it that way, but like, what if we tried an actual new way and we innovated and we, cared in this new way for each other? So I think they're looking at it in a lot of different ways and not just seeing it as, oh, climate change and this and that, but it's so localized to health issues, to weather issues, to community issues, social justice issues, racism issues, women's issues. I mean, so you could really dig in, right, on anything that's important to you and find that connection back. And that's what I'm doing with artists now. I did it with birders, farmers, women, mothers. Why are we going to care for the world? Because of the children that we want to protect. Why are we going to care for the world? Because of care for creation and religion and faith and whatever. Everybody has their reasons, right? For why they do the things they do. And I think we get busy in the day to day. And that's, of course, what the systems want, is keep us busy in the day to day. And I think young people are really taking the time to say, okay, I'm receiving. Okay, I see that I'm receiving all of this, but wait, let me take the time to like actually think and to see what I believe and what I want the future to be like. And that's what we really need right now more than anything.
So you believe that the good side of social media, whatever TikTok, has created more awareness and has helped people to support each other more and find each other more. I think I read well, it was in 2022 that you went to Washington with Jane Fonda and you did a thing called Fire Drill Friday Climate Action. Yeah.
Yeah, well, just actually
at
the end of the year, to end out the year, such a beautiful celebration of communities along the Gulf Coast. And so Royshetta Ozane from Lake Charles was invited up to speak with Jane Fonda as a special guest speaker at her very first Fire Drill Friday since COVID. And so this is a wonderful legacy project, call to action that Jane Fonda is doing, where she's bringing these amazing guests in on Fridays and really doing that sort of niche thing of like, okay, this topic, that topic, every different, Friday, a new topic. And so we had an opportunity to really highlight what was going on with petrochemicals along the Gulf Coast and the pollution from the oil and gas industry here, the threat from LNG, and the safety, and this sort of call to listen to the Gulf Coast, because we all are connected to the Gulf Coast and we all love the Gulf Coast. So it was really fun. Jane's amazing. We had a wonderful day together, and they marched, actually, did a little march with Taylor Schilling, who is an actress that was on Orange is the New Black, amongst other amazing award-winning things, and just a beautiful human being. And so we had an opportunity with Taylor, with Jane, and some other folks to then they marched up to the stage. There was hundreds of people there, beautiful crowd, and right there by the White House called on President Biden to declare a climate emergency and to take action for the Gulf Coast to stop the LNG build out, to stop the petrochemical build out, and to care for communities. So it was a really beautiful day. Jane is an absolutely inspiring speaker. Royshetta is moving and beautiful speaker. It was a wonderful, wonderful day. I really appreciate Annie and the folks at Greenpeace who helped put that together with the Fire Drill Friday crew. And we had such a beautiful, beautiful day. And I think that a lot of people took action that day and learned a little bit, because Jane is so educated about the policies and the politicians and the ways that this world works. And so she really brought some brilliance to that day. I was so impressed and so inspired by her.
I think it's fascinating also that she still does that, that she has influence and people are paying attention, and so many more people could do that or should do that. I think it's fantastic that she still does that and that she goes out and that she moves things.
Oh, absolutely. I'm so grateful to her and to people like you who are listening, people who are, working together It was one of the most beautiful days. I'll never forget that day with Jane Fonda and Royshetta Ozane. We had a beautiful time, and it really ended our year in such a wonderful way. And so, yeah, Jane has been the kind of activist that I hope all of us, will strive to be. I mean, what a legend. I love her.
I think we should just all do the best we can, because
Yeah.
we cannot change the world. But we can change our world. We can create our world and connect with people like you through Kiki and like via from Switzerland via Cyprus through a Swedish woman to speak somebody with at the Gulf Coast, and that's how we become a global community, and that's maybe when those walls will not be so important anymore when we create that.
Absolutely. I think we are looking, at these beautiful women, right? I got the chance to meet some of the global women groups through Kiki, and I definitely, I think of when I think of the leaders that I'm so inspired by, it often is women, and I'm grateful to you all because it has been women that have always lifted me up and just inspired me. And so I'm just, I'm inspired by Jane Fonda's brilliance, like I mentioned, but also the kindness, the willingness to sort of, she's doing this on Fridays, with herself, but, taking this action, this amazing legacy and doing this work, but also every Friday highlighting somebody else. Right. And really opening it up, bringing somebody new in, or multiple new people in. And it leads to, just wonderful opportunities to keep this conversation going, with new love, and not only women, but all people together, just, really working together in new ways, I think, where we're thinking not only about the present day, but also about the future and caring for each other in a new way.
Yeah, it's about our children as well. Now, you originally come from New York, right?
Yes, I was born up in New York along the Hudson River, close to New York City, and spent a lot of time down in New York City, but also just all over the United States for the Junior Olympics. And then for work, I've had a chance to work a lot in places from Appalachia to, of course, LA and Hollywood and California, and then I did a lot of touring through the Moms Clean Air Force with women across America. Got a chance to film with the Woodrush Connection in Belize. I'm now filming all the way to the border in Texas, and I've traveled all around the world, like trying to learn about different ecosystems and learn about different types of, people. And I found that my work is not so much in, the documentary type of, serious way of doing things, but more in finding new ways to do things that are a little bit more equitable, a little bit more loving, and a little bit more collaborative, and more focused on listening. And so I find myself hearing more and more that, like, we didn't expect it to be such a love fest when we were together, or things like that. And it's really more about the healing, I think, that the listening provides. And so the kind of work that I do is focused around being present, being a healer in these different places, and then being able to share those stories so others can listen as well. It's just become a part of it. But yeah, I started in New York and came to this place along the Gulf Coast in Florida for college. And so that's how I actually came to the Gulf Coast originally 20 years ago. And I keep coming back here again and again and again. And I'm just lucky now to finally be making my first film here.
Amazing. I told you at the beginning before we recorded, I used to be a tour guide in the US, and I have been to really, really many places all over. And I love the national parks. I love Bryce Canyon, Zion Canyon, Grand Canyon, Yellowstone. What is your favorite part of the United States?
So interestingly enough, it's right here. So I choose this place because I love it so much. And so I mentioned the coastal dune lakes, but the coastal dune lakes are rare in the world where, so I'm standing on the beach here, in Florida on the top of the Gulf of Mexico. And if I look to one side, it is this very, very wild ecosystem, a lake, blue heron flying through the sky, alligators. And then I look on the other side of a short little river, which is called an outfall through the dunes onto the beach, this beautiful white sand, of course, that is here on the Gulf Coast, the Emerald Coast. Beautiful, crystal clear, blue-green water, and dolphins and sea turtles. And the outfall essentially opens up into the Gulf about once a year or so, and it creates this brackish red water system that sort of erupts into the Gulf Coast. And then the water then is refilled in the lake with this blue-green water. And it's this unique ecosystem. It's so special to me. There's something healing about this place that has kept me coming back. And I really consider it so much to be my home. I love this place so much. And we worked for 20 years ago, to preserve a lot of it. And so there's I think 40% or more of this whole area is just forest. It's very natural and it's amazing. I love it so much.
It makes me want to go there now,
Come visit. You and Kiki.
Yeah, that would be a nice idea. We'll either meet on the Gulf Coast or on Kiki's little island in Sweden.
Exactly.
Places. Or have you been to Cyprus? Have you been to the Eastern Mediterranean?
No, I want to go to all of these places.
You see, so we'll get together in all these different places.
So
you traveled a lot. You traveled a lot outside the US as well. Is there any places, or do you have a favorite place in the world?
Gosh, I once went to Ireland, and I always say that I would go back to Ireland because there's so many places to go. I want to go to new places, right? But I went to Ireland one time and I missed my train, and I ended up in a car with a band from Italy, a folk band, and we just traveled around Ireland together, going to castles and having the best kind of time that you can have in your 20s. Just like living and who cares where we go next kind of thing. And I had a big schedule and I knew where I was going to go, but then I threw it all out the window. And so I just had a lovely time in Ireland, but I also felt that kind of energy there, like I feel here. It was a very special energy. And then I recently went to Spain. This was my latest place, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I could move there. I love southern Spain. I love Cadiz. And so I had a very special experience there where as soon as I saw this cathedral, my heart, and I just felt like, gosh, I'm connected to this place. And I just felt a very deep connection, like I past life there, it was there. And so, or my ancestors were there. And so really loved getting to go where my ancestors sort of come from in Spain and Italy and Portugal and doing those kind of journeys as well.
Amazing. But I think you are just kind of a citizen of the world, aren't you? I think you would fall in love with anywhere you go. And you would want to stay there.
That's really all I bring. That's what I mean. I'm not like the best documentary filmmaker in the world. I'm not, what I am is I'm in love with this world and I love people and I love listening to people. And so just by doing that, it not only heals, I think, the people that I'm with, but it's healing me. I have a blessed life of getting to give, getting paid to love people and to listen to people and do this kind of work where we're celebrating and having joy and making art and sharing stories and getting to share our truths, sometimes for the first time. And it's, in places where we normally don't get to do this, right? Or things we don't always get to talk about. But it's not, for any big agenda. It's really just real people sharing and loving and living. And so I love it. I love everybody. It's super curious.
Like you love listening. You say you love. Not many people love listening because most people spend much more time talking than listening, even though we all know that when you listen, you learn something. When you speak, you hear something that you already know. But now you're talking about, or you're saying that you're not, you've won a lot of awards, even though you say that you're not the best documentarian in the world. You've done a good job. So there must be something about those documentaries that you make.
The last 2 years were very special to me because I won these awards. That one was I was recognized actually under this one was the Don Eldon Award, and this was a documentary filmmaker that had passed away, and his parents had created this award, and it was honoring people as part of the My Hero Award, people who just were doing this kind of good hero work, and so it was more honoring me for who I am and this kind of way that I want to exist in the world and to be giving and loving and listening. And so it was an honor to be just honored for existing, right? Like, and then I just won this award called the Maya Deren Film Innovation Award. And that was also sort of not just for a specific film that I made, but for my work in doing this caring for the world and in the work that I was trying to do in community, connecting and who I am. It was just the biggest honors. And these filmmakers, Maya Deren and Don Eldon, these were really people who had actually been in very dangerous places and doing really important work. And Maya Deren's from the Ukraine, and Don Eldon was doing work in Africa, and they're just amazing people. And it was like, wow, this is a big honor. So that was really coming through COVID, and I actually had lost film funding, and we had to stop my other film, and things all fell apart. I didn't know what was going to happen. And then to just randomly, in sort of these weird times, get the biggest awards of my career. And then now be this past year, funded doing this film work and hoping to continue it and make it into my first sort of big feature film project. It just all feels really nice.
But you are mentioning funding. Is it harder to find funding for a documentary than it would be for a film, like a movie? What do you call it?
I think there's definitely different worlds, right? Because when you're making Avatar, you're expecting to be gajillions of dollars back, and it's all these investors that are looking at making money from art, right? I mean, art, paintings and things are some of our biggest money things, right? But then when you think about the kind of people that care about the world, when we've had really big crises like COVID or in the United States, 9/11 was this big crisis that sort of shook up the philanthropy world. And so COVID was that same way. And but people continue to give to the arts. People continue, they might not give to the animal shelter anymore, or they might not, give to the environment. They're feeling more close to home. They're feeling sort of centered in their own problems and in the day-to-day. They're worried about safety and security, but oftentimes they will still give to this art because it is literally one of the things that brings us joy and it entertains us in these times. But it's also philanthropy, I think, in a way, just in general, because you're able to combine those things. So you're supporting the arts, but you can also do a documentary about something you really do actually care about. Maybe a family illness that had happened. Mm-hmm. Now you're supporting a documentary about, this specific kind of illness or climate change, because that hit close to home for you. So, you're combining this support for the arts and you're giving it is really much more of a giving than an investing, I would say. Unless you're looking at big things like, I had an opportunity to work on a big Emmy-winning series, and even then, though, when you're doing these sort of cause things, you might get a big network deal or sell to some big thing. I've been doing so far, these things that we're doing for free, we're making things that go to film festivals, they win awards, it's great, but then we really want to get them back into community for impact campaigns, for local screenings, for, just showing them as much as possible. And so I have films that are made into school curriculums or distributed to 4,000 churches across the country with a toolkit on how to DIY sustainability, mm-hmm. We're really doing action impact campaigns with a lot of the films as well. But but the funding for me is often coming in collaboration with that kind of thing, where it's more nonprofit organizations that are supporting me. When I'm looking at this new feature film, though, I'm looking at more investor funder types that like films, that like art, that are, grants and labs. And I'm going to try to do some of these things for the first time and have some fun with it. And, who knows? I don't know. We'll see if but so far, all of my partnerships have been with the Audubon Society, the Moms Clean Air Force, the Sierra Club, these amazing organizations.
Do you have a dream? If there was like an unlimited amount of funding available, what would you do with it?
I would do my feature film now. I would do exactly what I'm doing. It's funny because you asked me what I would do where would I live? And I would live exactly where I live. And what would I be doing if I had unlimited money? I would do exactly what I'm doing. And I love these answers for myself. I'm so proud of myself. So yes,
isn't that beautiful to be able to say that? I think that is a sign of being really, really content.
Yes, it took me a long time to get here to this conversation. So it's really, in recognizing that is really beautiful.
And you mentioned the word healing a few times, and I'm sure there was a lot of healing involved to get where you are.
So much healing. I mean, healing is a day-to-day activity, and especially in areas like the Gulf Coast where you are, in so many communities, there's so many layers of trauma, right? And so I think that, healing is a day-to-day thing here. And even just as women, as humans, right? And it's a choice. So I'm choosing every day to do this healing work and to be able to give in service to the world my best self.
That's, I think, because I was just looking at the time, we're getting to the end of this interview. And I think after that, there is not much else to say, because the way you said that is just so very beautiful. And it is a day-to-day thing. And I think we should all use healing every day and think about, what do I need? What do I need to do now to heal? And then you start again the next day, because it never ends.
It never ends. Find your happiness, do more of that. What makes you happy? What makes you have that joy, that shine, that sparkle? Try to do a little bit of that each day. But that's not all, right? Like learning about yourself, working on yourself, accepting, and really having a self-concept, like who are you? Who are you presenting to the world? But also being able to learn and change, right? Like so many of us, it's so scary. Change is horrifying for so many people, but the world is change, and the world is always changing. And I think that's what keeps me young. I think that's what keeps us joyful. And then the giving, there is nothing that makes you feel better. It takes a lot. It's sometimes when you are so busy, it's hard to help others or to do something, good for others. When self-help and love often just says, take a bath, take care of yourself, right? And we need to do that first. Like you need to do the joy first, so that it's like you're taking care of yourself, so that then you can give to others. But there's nothing that makes me feel better than when somebody that I've been working with has good news, when something that we've listened to, when the documentary film helps, or any of this work is actually healing. That's what I'm feeling like so good, and I feel like the more that I'm working on how can I serve better, the more joyful I am. And we don't realize that, I think, a lot, how good that feels. And so I want you to know that how much this has meant to me, you listening to me, this has helped me. I appreciate what you're doing. And this podcast is so important. All the people that listen to your show, these amazing people. I listened, of course, to episodes. I'm a fan now. And I love these travel stories and these stories of living. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Dayna Reggero, for spending time with me and for being on Most Memorable Journeys today.
Thank you so much.
If you enjoy my podcast, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. You will find all the information in the show notes.